How I Use Time Travel to Fix the Yankees. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy, and producer Xavier Rizzo. We have a very special quick hits episode for you as we get back on the board after a couple of vacations. Dog leaving the country for a little bit. Rizzo's heading down to Long Beach Island. And we jump back into it here for a very special episode where we are going to talk about actually a previous episode that we did April 27th, where a whole bunch of shit that we talked about came true and like nobody else was just even anywhere on the radar. It caught the whole rest of the world by surprise. But you could go back to April 27th and listen to that episode, which I recommend, which Dog and I did yesterday, and producer Xavier did as well. But producer Xavier is going to cut this up in a way where if you're watching it, you could see the video clips of what we talked about. So we're going to be cutting in pieces from that April 27th episode where we pat ourselves on the back and talk about how we were first on things like Anthony Rizzo coming to the Yankees, which nobody saw, Giancarlo Stanton playing the outfield, which I think maybe I actually did hear one person mention at some point, Aaron Judge playing center field, and Corey Seager, the possibility of him coming to the Yankees. We talked about all this stuff on an April 27th episode, and we're going to cut it all up for you and pat ourselves on the back. But first, we remind you to check out fmsgraphics.com. fmsgraphics.com, a family-owned, family-run business for 50 years. All your printing and promotional needs can be taken care of at fmsgraphics.com. fmsgraphics.com. Sports Maps, that's Sports Maps and then mapz.com. Check them out for a wonderful piece of art for your home, your office, or your home office. Sportsmaps.com, sportsmapz.com. And this is a big one. We welcome in our newest sponsor. I got to get the prop ready. Our newest sponsor, Big Ed's Car Wash in Fairlawn, New Jersey. Big Ed's, the voted best car wash in Bergen County, New Jersey, 5 years in a row. You can guess where my cars are being washed. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Big Ed's Car Wash in Fairlawn. No bull, cleaned right. Big Ed's Car Wash in Fairlawn. I'm just reading all of the taglines that Ed sent me. And Ed is a great guy. Go in there and you just say, hey, is Big Ed around? And you know what? He's almost always there. So check out Big Ed's. And I'll give you the full, we're giving the full treatment here tonight. They don't call us Big Ed's for nothing. Big Ed's has a 110-foot tunnel. Our impressive wash tunnel means more wash features, more soft cloth, more foam, more soap, more wax. Don't settle for a short tunnel, dog, and a 1-minute wash. Size matters. Dog knows that. 6 kids. If you could send, if you could
wax on, wax off.
If you could be in the Bergen County area and you can go into Big Ed's Car Wash, you got to do it. So welcome, Big Ed's, and thank you very much. We got the hat here. So if you're just listening, you don't get to see the hat. So go check out the video on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. Okay, this is a quick hits, so we're going to try to keep it brief. Dog comes in, doesn't have to do veteran of the day for this one, but we have this little renaissance, right? Yes. So on a Wednesday in August right now, August 25th. Happy birthday, Ted, by the way. Ted Takmorian, happy birthday. We were supposed to meet up on the 24th, and we were going to try to do something together in person. Life got in the way. This is a podcast about baseball and about life, so life got in the way. That'll be for a different episode. We'll talk about it. So we wanted to do this one in person, but now we do get the benefit of higher production quality, probably. And what we did was we're like, okay, let's plan this out a little bit more. Dog, go check out this April 27th episode. I can't believe it. And then I think that you listened to it and you had kind of the same reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing at the time. Kind of both teams were floundering a little bit. Yankees, I think, probably more disappointed than the Mets because the Mets a little lower expectations. But I think it kicked off a two-parter, I think, where we did fix the Yankees and fix the Mets. And the fix the Yankees was unbelievable.
So at the time that night, we did one of our Tuesday Night Live episodes. So if you go back, look for April 27th. It was a Tuesday Night Live, blah blah blah, fixing the Yankees. That was the first fixing the Yankees episode we did. And during that live stream, the Yankees were playing the Orioles, and they eventually closed it out with a win. And that win raised the Yankees record to 10-13 and dropped the Orioles record to 10-13. Now, since then, the Orioles have won 28 games and the Yankees have won 64. Including the Orioles have lost 19 in a row as we're talking about this, and they're playing against Shohei Ohtani at the moment. So if you're going back and forth on that one, well, we're not live streaming this one, so when you get to it, by the time you get to it, you'll know if Shohei Ohtani put the Orioles to their 20th straight loss or not. But imagine those two teams at that point being tied. And in fact, as we were on the air at that moment, the Yankees were 9-13 and the Orioles were 10-12. So the Yankees were actually behind the Orioles. And it took a while for things to eventually kick in. But one of the main things that we talked about was what was wrong in terms of the makeup of the team, and that a big theme of that episode was completely centered around Giancarlo Stanton, and the fact that because they were so locked into him as a designated hitter, that really was the thing that screwed up the rest of the roster. And if you could get him into the outfield, I said even at the time, and I contended it all along, I'm like, even if you get him into the outfield 2 games a week, it completely changes the dynamic of the team. Well, guess what eventually happens, right? Giancarlo Stanton starts playing the outfield. All this stuff starts to happen that turns the Yankee season around. So we'll now ask producer Xavier to go to the clip where we talk about Giancarlo Stanton. This is the unpopular part.
Okay.
I think Stanton is a better player when he actually goes and plays in the outfield. And you know what? If he gets hurt as much as a DH as he does playing in the outfield. The way that he gets hurt swinging. He gets hurt like sliding. He gets hurt that way. He doesn't really get hurt playing in the outfield. And if he's playing left field against, righties half the time, right? That's probably 80 games in the field. I think it improves Stanton's hitting if he does it. And defensively, they talk about he's a butcher, whatever. Like, okay, fine. Like, fine. I'll take the butcher if he starts hitting again, because he's easily going to out hit whatever his crap defense might be. And I don't think his defense is really as awful as some of the people that we've seen over the years. I don't think it's that bad. And there you have it. Now, Dawg, I have to admit, I had heard people talk about that one. Maybe not people, but somebody at some point. I think there have been baseball people that have questioned it a little bit, and my thing being, look, you're worried about him getting hurt. He gets hurt when he's just DHing. So put him in the outfield. There's the same chance he's going to get hurt, maybe less, because he's actually doing more baseball stuff and athletic stuff. And now you hear him talk about it, saying, "Oh, I actually feel more comfortable. I feel more into the game when I'm playing the outfield." And I mean, when he hits, it's a huge difference maker for this team.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. And for once, I actually didn't disagree with you. So I was waiting for that throughout the podcast, because normally I'd be like, that's such a dumb idea, Riz. And 50 batting point average later, I'd be roasted all over it. But yeah, I mean, it's very true. A lot of guys will say that it's even more so for pinch hitting, right? But even for a lot of the hitters, they're used to being in the game and being out in the field, and then getting ready to come up to the plate and whatnot. And it's tough to kind of stay within the game at that point. And just thinking about it, right? You're going to be you're going to want to cooling down. You're warming up and cooling down like 4 times a game versus like you're just kind of constantly warm if you're going out and playing the field and going back and forth like that. So, you know, unless they have a guy who's got like, hammy issues or something like that, or, maybe a thigh issue, stuff like that, you know, in general, you want to kind of keep that guy warm and keep him into the game. And like you said, it's, if he's got, intercostal and like stuff like that, or, where his issues are, keeping him warm is actually safer than sitting him on the bench for an hour at a time.
Yeah. So that was something that eventually I think just with all the COVID issues and the injury issues and everything, I think Aaron Boone and the Yankee Brain Trust just got to the point where they're like, you know what, we just have no better option. We got to throw him out there. And all of a sudden he goes out there and you're like, wow, what a difference. Like now we'll get to the next thing, which is, and this one, this is close to home because it's cousin Anthony. It's cousin Anthony Rizzo. Which since I feel like basically maybe we started this podcast in an effort for me to get Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees, and somehow that worked. So on April 27th on this show, Diamond Diehards, with myself, Joe Rizzo, and the dog Jeff Healy, and producer Xavier Rizzo on the side, we talked about how Anthony Rizzo was the Yankees guy. Xavier, I got the guy for the Yankees.
Okay.
I
Let's
got
hear
the
it.
guy. His name is Anthony Rizzo. But the thing is, so here you go, right? He's in the contract year. So if you're going to trade for him, you're trading for him with the idea of re-signing him, right? Now you've flipped that and you've added your left-handed bat at first, and you've given your team a captain type that they really need, which is Rizzo. I'm not just saying that because of the name. He's
so
not,
desperate to get the Rizzo number on for the Yankees here.
he can't. He can't.
Actually, it's true. Yeah, he can't win. Yeah, that's a bummer.
And now he is their guy. And Dawg, you know what made me so happy was, look, there's a lot of podcasts out there and shows that I respect where they talk about baseball and they talk about, I'm talking about like not just the podcast stuff, Sirius XM, MLB Network, the MLB Network that you watch on TV. And you know what I kept hearing over and over again was, man, Rizzo to the Yankees. I just didn't see that one coming. No one saw that coming. A lot of people talked about maybe the Red Sox at some point. But we were talking about it on April 27th when the Cubs were still very much in the race. And it was a matter of what could they possibly do? And now, to be fair, the thing I didn't get right was that I said I would have traded Gleyber Torres for him, and we'll get to that a little bit later. They didn't have to trade Gleyber Torres for him. That doesn't mean that a deal with Gleyber Torres won't happen at some point. But right now, they're winning with some guy that they just found at shortstop, which was like another thing that we joked about during that episode. I don't know if we're going to play that clip, but you had a good chuckle. I was like, yeah, you could just find anybody. You just throw somebody at shortstop. And now, like, look who they're throwing at shortstop. My solutions were like Gio Urshela or trade for Trevor Story or whatever, but they did eventually just like start throwing guys at shortstop because Torres wasn't there. So that was, the Rizzo thing I'm especially proud of because it's cousin Anthony. We talk about it all the time, but I felt like this was a perfect fit. And I think that the general consensus, see, I feel like this is where we do a better job, or this is what's special about, like, people want to know, okay, you're doing a baseball podcast, whatever. Yes, I was a sports writer for a long time. You and I were on the air together at Fordham University a million years ago. You're a numbers guy. We have a good dynamic. Why are we doing a podcast? What are we bringing special to the table? This is what we're bringing to the table. This kind of thing, this kind of foresight. You know why? Honestly, Dawg, everybody had lazy analysis of the Yankees on this. They looked at the positions and they saw Luke Voigt, who led the majors and homers in the truncated 60-game season. And they're like, Luke Voigt doesn't get paid a lot of money. He's a good guy in the clubhouse. He's a good, well-rounded hitter. He's probably, he's in that, age range where he's going to be like, at his peak or peaking for still a few more years. And you don't really have to pay him anything. But their lazy analysis wasn't looking at the team as a whole, where you have Stanton in there, you have Judge in there. you can't move Stanton. You're not moving Judge. And you have all these other right-handed bats around the diamond. And the place where you could find the guy who also has the chemistry is at first base. And Rizzo, to me, was always the guy. And I'm still in uh, joyous disbelief that Brian Cashman pulled the deal off for him. Since all this happened, like he's had COVID, he's already back. I mean, it's a whirlwind. We haven't like blitzed you guys with shows in the meantime, but I just felt like it was a little lazy analysis, and that when we dig in, especially with the Yankees and the Mets, and sometimes with the other teams, like we've done it with the Cardinals, we've done it with the Brewers, we've done it with the Dodgers and the Padres, especially. I feel like there's a little bit of lazy analysis on a lot of the other shows and podcasts where they're so pressed with having to produce content like every day, and we're not in that same boat. So maybe we could step back a little bit and try to find these other avenues. But I'll tell you what, it's not just that show. I mean, we're just doing this because it's my ego, but there's a lot of other shows that you could go back to. And if you listen to the archive, we're talking about stuff months before it happens. Months.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting when you're kind of talking there, on the April 27th show, I sort of talk about like, the three outcome and like how tilted the Yankees were towards the three outcome guys. And, kind of in statistics and stuff, we're talking about like, correlation, right? And the problem is you had all the same kind of guys. So they all tend to do all the same kind of thing at the same time. So when you're peaking, you're destroying people. And then when things aren't clicking, you got nothing. Right. And that I think we were sort of saying at the time, that was really a difference of the team early in the season versus prior Yankee seasons, where you had, like you were saying, Hicks before and Gardy and stuff like that. You guys who would get like the key hit, go the other way and things like that. And, like when Rizzo came, right, was either his first or second game, got a huge hit. I think it was the second game. He got the huge hit opposite field to left field and like set up the Stanton homer or something like that. And they wound up winning that game. I think it was like 2-1 versus somebody. And they were getting shut down the entire time. If he wasn't there, that would have been another 1-0 loss to the Yankees that the Yankees would have had. And that was it. You bring something different to it. Obviously righty lefty, you can see, but even just the ability to use the whole field, that's going to be huge for him.
Yeah. And this sort of thing keys in with yet another thing that we started talking about, in that episode. And if you're watching, there's going to be a visual here. So Xavier and Dawg, you can give me the thumbs up if you could see it. Yes. Can you see it?
We can see it.
See it. Okay. So I could turn back around. So I'm wearing my Aaron Judge shirt, not the jersey, but the shirt. And one of the things that we were talking about on that episode was, hey, if you're gonna do these things, where's one of your weaknesses? Now, Dawg hammered home.
That's what I got wrong.
Dawg hammered home in that episode how he didn't think Aaron Hicks was very good.
No.
And he thought that was a big weakness in the team at the time. Now, Aaron Hicks didn't like get benched or anything. To be fair, Dawg, he did get hurt. But to give you props, what you discovered and you unearthed in that episode, I felt like, was that Aaron Hicks was a weak spot, and he was, making them vulnerable in center field because they were relying much too much on him. And then one of my solutions was Aaron Judge likes to play right field. He says it, but he's more than capable of playing center. He's not a great defensive center fielder, but he's serviceable when you need him there. So let him go and play center when you need him to. If that gets Stanton in the outfield somewhere, then so be it. If there's somebody who's more, if Stanton's more comfortable playing right somewhere, if he's more comfortable playing left, whatever, it doesn't matter. Move Judge, let Judge get reps in center field. Sure enough, what happens during this streak where the Yankees turn things around? Aaron Judge is not playing center field regularly, but he's making significant contributions in that spot, which means he's taking bad or lesser innings away and lesser at-bats away and providing, as he's been their stalwart for the entire season. He's been by far their best and most consistent player. More Judge in a more important spot. Dawg was ripping apart the way the Yankees were built up the middle. Sanchez was horrible, especially at the time. you didn't like the way that they had LeMahieu signed when you felt like Torres was more of a second baseman. You identified we have too many second basemen and nobody, not enough shortstop problem, right? Which was weakening them in general up the middle, and then of course six and center. So you move Judge there, and guess what? Sanchez then starts to come out of the doldrums a little bit, and LeMahieu hasn't been the LeMahieu you expect, but he's been a little bit more consistent than he was. Okay, in the first like 23 games, but whatever. And you've had to play a menagerie of people over at short. So we solved that one, and here's Xavier with the Judge clip. I mean, look, you could even, if you wanted to, you could even experiment with putting Judge there. I think he played center when he was at Fresno State, and he has played it, at very short stints as a Yankee. He's definitely athletic enough to do it. It's just that I know that I know definitely prefers to play right. But look, if he's your best guy and he's the guy that needs to go over there and do it, then you just say, you know what, Judge, you're going to play. Hicks is just falling off a cliff here. We don't have another guy to come in here yet. We need you to go over and play center. Not the most sexy, but still it was there. And if we're doing, the Diamond Diehards forensic files, then you get to see it. All right, Dog. One of the things that we talked about in the off season significantly, and granted, it was mostly surrounded by the Mets, right? Was the shortstop issue in New York and how it related to the rest of the league. And then we were gifted with the Francisco Lindor trade to the Mets. Subsequently, we were gifted with the public Twitter negotiation of Steve Cohen, the Mets owner, with Francisco Lindor. Hey, I'm taking this guy out to dinner tonight. What should I offer him? We had Mike Puma, who's the New York Post beat writer for the Mets, on with us. And at that time, we discussed, what I was calling the Puma plan, which I was on board with, that there were a lot of shortstops coming up in the market. And sure, why not just wait and see? I mean, if he's your guy, you could always just sign him, right? You could sign him in the middle of the season, even though he says he's not going to negotiate. You could sign him, before the free agency period starts because he's your guy. Why not just wait? Well, it was on the heels of the Fernando Tatis Jr. signing. Those two sat down to dinner. They came to an agreement, and the Mets have their shortstop for the next 10 years, whether they like it or not. What we saw coming, what we perhaps saw coming in the shortstop market that others did not, is Corey Seager possibly ending up somewhere other than the Dodgers and maybe in the Bronx, which Xavier will play for you now. You can come up with a shortstop somewhere. You move LeMahieu to third, right?
Shortstop somewhere? That's always okay.
No, meaning minors or on the trade market, or
that's fair.
The Yankees make a really smart destination for him.
There are a lot of potentially high-priced shortstop upcoming free agents.
Right. And you open yourself up in that shortstop market in the off season. If the Dodgers, for some reason, decide Corey Seager is not for them and they want to go somewhere else, then Corey Seager ends up with the Yankees. I mean, geez, I wouldn't want his left-handed bat in Yankee Stadium, so what we didn't have at that time was the knowledge that Corey Seager would battle a little injury bug, and that the Dodgers would have the Trevor Bauer issue, which would then, force them, theoretically force, right? I mean, you force
to spend another $60 million.
Yeah, you're forced to go get Max Scherzer. Yes, we're forcing you to do that. And
while you're getting him, there's another guy.
Yeah, let's get White Jesus, Trey Turner. So the Nationals, perhaps, selling low. I mean, Dog, I could not believe that he got dealt. I couldn't believe he got dealt in that deal. I felt like they could have gotten, one of those top prospects, the catcher or the pitcher, and maybe something else thrown in. And they decide to just give up the last year and a half of Trey Turner who is, I mean, you could argue he's the best shortstop in the majors. Like you could,
Yeah, he's right. He's right there.
he's in the
Right.
argument,
Yep.
right? And you have Corey Seager, who is one of the best shortstops in the majors and has a ring and was the best, postseason shortstop in history last year, basically, right? Like, I mean, like
Yep.
Derek Jeter was watching Corey Seager and he was like, man, I'm jealous of him. Like he was
Wow, this guy always
crushing
gets it done.
everything. I mean, he got it done every possible way that you could get it done, and he's got his ring. Well, they said we're going to put this athlete on our team, and Corey Seager came back once Trey Turner was out for a little bit after the trade because I think he was on the COVID list, and then they come back and they're Seager is holding down the shortstop spot. Well, the thing is, what's happened is you have a year left of Turner under contract, and Corey Seager becomes a free agent. So if you're re-signing Corey Seager, that means you're either going to convince Trey Turner to play another position for all of next season when he's heading into his walk year. He's not. Spoiler alert, he's not going to like that because he'd rather play shortstop leading into his walk year, as he should if he has a brain in his head and he wants to make, 500 times more money than all of the people who ever listen to the show combined will make. And that's all due respect to you, listener out there. Until Steve Cohen.
Unless Steve Cohen's listening.
In which case, Steve, contact us on LinkedIn or any of the other social medias.
The Mets need us.
Be glad to have you on. Look, Trey Turner looks like he's going to be the Dodgers shortstop next year, Dog. Am I going out on a limb?
Nope.
Not really, right? Like if Vegas was putting odds on it, then they're going to favor him to be there. And Corey Seager, I would think, is almost certainly going to hit the market. And then during the offseason or whatever, there is a caveat. I mean, look, things could happen. Turner could, say, look, I want to play shortstop somewhere. Please trade me for this last year if you want to re-sign Seager, or if you want to sign me to a long-term deal, then fine. Or maybe they make some kind of agreement. It's unlikely that those two guys are going to be on the Dodgers next season. Let's say that. And I think it's more likely, considering what you have there, that the guy that they keep is going to be Turner and the guy they let walk is going to be Seager. And if Seager walks, the Bronx is going to be burning to get him. He is a left-handed bat. He is a solid defensive shortstop. He's clutch. He could handle the big market. I mean, he's everything that you could hope for on that really right-handed Yankees team, and you don't have to give up anything except money to get him. If you bring him in, then of course the first question is, well, you have Gleyber Torres and you have LeMahieu signed. So what's going to happen? Well, Torres is going to have, even coming off a bad year, Torres is going to have significantly higher market value than LeMahieu would have. So he would be the guy that you trade to fill some other gap, some kind of, improvement in pitching.
Some starting pitching, exactly.
Or maybe they improve the bullpen and get a closer, because you know what? You look around the majors and every team that's in contention has question marks at closers. Even the guys that are good and have big numbers, they're all giving it up in big spots, especially this year. Liam Hendricks can't get a big out. Craig Kimbrell, who's behind them in Chicago for the White Sox, he's been horrible since he came over from the Cubs. The Rays are, I mean, you never know who's going to be closing a game. They seem to be the ones who have like the most, I mean, I don't want to call it luck, but you're going to trust
every guy throws 98.
Yeah. And with a different arm slot. This guy throws 69, but he's got an arm slot over here. You're going to trust anybody with the Astros or the A's or the Yankees to close the game in a big spot? No. I mean, Aroldis Chapman, just he's not what he was. I mean, could he end up getting some big outs in the playoffs? Yeah, but he hasn't even been that guy in the past few years, especially if they have to go against the Astros, and the Astros are going to be there. You trust in anybody in Atlanta, Philly. I mean, honestly, if the Mets make it, Edwin Diaz is probably the guy, ironically, that
It's
I
like
trust number 2 on the list. Josh Hader is the one guy that I'm trusting. I'm casting my lot with Hader first, Diaz second, as crazy as that sounds, because I was a big critic of his. But listen, I mean,
numbers and numbers.
he's
Unless
got
you're
the,
Uncle Paul, you like him.
and you know what? The guy's got balls.
Yeah.
Guy has balls, man. I don't think he's afraid of the big moment. I think in the big moment, if he's going to get beat, he's going to get beat with his pitch, and I have a lot of respect for him. And in San Francisco, you got Jake McGee. The Dodgers, you got Kenley Jansen, who, geez, I mean, like, who's going to close for them in a big spot? Is it going to be him? Maybe, but like last year, we saw Blake Trinan stepping in. If you get down to the Padres, Mark Melanson actually has been the best closer probably consistently in baseball this year. Point being, there's questions all around with these guys. So that might be an area of fortification. And I don't know if Torres, like, if you're gonna quote unquote waste him to get a significant bullpen arm, maybe you get a young guy that's
Just a young arm, and you kind of grow it yourself, right?
yeah.
I think that's the moral of the story. Is it's such a crapshoot in the pen that you're almost better off just getting a bunch of young guys coming up and just you pick whoever's hot,
Yeah,
right?
that
I
might
mean,
be
it's
it.
just yeah, it's
I mean,
so tough, and so tough to get it repeatedly, right? Like you have to like nail someone kind of an off year, like that's kind of the value way of building the pen. Is you find a guy in a down year and you think you can turn one little thing around with him and all of a sudden he's good. But like if you're getting a guy who's good, you're gonna pay through the nose and the results generally are not very good.
I know your mileage may vary. I mean, the White Sox are surely like thinking, that this is an issue for them. And then you see Hendricks in the in the Field of Dream games, and a few years ago when he was with the A's and the Yankees beat him up there in a big spot. I mean, you're figuring if you're the White Sox at some point, you might have to get through the Yankees. You better get somebody else. Now Kimbrel got through the Yankees with the Red Sox, but man, he was dancing on eggshells in 2018 to do that. I mean, they had him dead to rights time after time, and he managed to wiggle out of it. But listen, if I'm the Yankees and I'm in a big spot against either of those two guys, I definitely don't feel like the game is over, especially if Stanton's in left field that game. All right, Dog. There's a few other things that we could talk about that we could, this is the pump the tires like I was a time traveler episode, because it certainly seems like when you've listened to those clips that Xavier has cut in for us, it seems like maybe we did a little time traveling there. I'm here to tell you that I probably didn't time travel. I'm not going to say for sure that I didn't. I'm just going to say probably. But another thing that we talked about, now we'll talk about on yeah, things that we talk about on different shows. Dog, you were very, very adamantly for a long time screaming to the heavens that your Mets needed another pitcher, screaming it. And they went through. Steve Cohen gets on Twitter and he talks about the undisciplined hitters of the Mets. And they go out and they get Javi Baez, who is an electric fielder. He's an exciting player, and he never saw a pitch that he didn't like. And he's not Vlad Guerrero.
I saw him walk the other day, which is shocking.
Back to the dugout after his third strikeout of the game.
A little ahead of that changeup.
Oh my God! Did you see that? Marvin Freeman posted that video.
I've seen that a couple times. So
what is he? Marvin
that's
Freeman,
a roughie.
the former Rockies pitcher among others. Like he is
Atlanta,
hilarious on Twitter.
Oh
And
yeah.
He's Marvin Freeman 84, I think, on Twitter, right? Let's give him a
Yeah.
shout out.
Yeah.
He shows this side picture of Baez swinging. He is like 3 feet away from the ball.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think he just put good pitch recognition. Like no, but you were screaming that the Mets needed to get a pitcher at the deadline, a pitcher. And you know what? The part that kills me about the Mets slide here is I really like Louis Rojas. I really like him. And I think that they should keep him, but I keep hearing like in the off season, maybe Alderson will be gone. They'll bring in Theo Epstein. They'll do this. And we talked about that before. I mean, we talked about
Yep.
that a year ago, right? Theo Epstein coming to the Mets.
Yep.
I like Rojas. I think he's a good manager. I think he knows how to handle guys. And I just don't feel like you could plop this slide on him. I think that he got a lot out of this team with smoke and mirrors in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
And once they just lost that little edge of pitching, if DeGrom's there, I can't say they'd be in first place. I could say they wouldn't be 7 out. And if they had gone in and fortified with just one more starting arm, the
Yeah.
rest of those guys underneath wouldn't have caved in as much as they have. The hitting, I can't explain. I can't
The
explain it.
hitting you can't really fix. That's kind of the problem. I mean, I struggled that when we were doing the first half and like sort of we were doing our preview, and I went with John Gray for the Rockies, who wound up not getting traded, so I can't knock it. I mean, they theoretically tried, felt like they could have tried harder, but he wound up not getting traded to anybody. But yeah, I mean, for the Mets, I mean, you look at a McNeil, right? I mean, McNeil, like the guy here hits like high 300s or is a 30 home run kind of swing. He's had both of those sort of stretches. More of an average guy than really a power guy. I'm like, just nothing right there. Now you're not getting the average or the power at that point. I mean, that's very
And
frustrating.
Dominic
Dom
Smith.
Smith, big disappointment versus righties. Alonso's he's been consistent. So he's been a solid one. I'm also looking up the OPS, I think, for like the top 100 hitters in baseball. I think the Mets had one. It was Alonso. Maybe bias. Maybe bias is unknown. No,
He hasn't done it.
he didn't do it with the Mets, but like I just looked down. I'm like, oh my God, like there's really nobody. Conforto's had a stretch. Lindor's obviously been disappointing. I mean, just Gary Cohen had a great call last week when the Mets were playing the Giants. It's like everybody in the Giants has outperformed expectations. Everybody in the Mets has underperformed expectations. You look at the back of the card, right? They play into the back of the card, and like nobody in that lineup isn't into the back of the card. And they're dragging the whole time. And now what they finally, like you point out, there just wasn't enough pitching and defense to help bridge that. They got away with that in the first half, and they just weren't able to keep it up in the second half.
Alonso is mostly the only exception, but even he, like 261, 28 homers, 73 ribbies, and 116 games over 421 at bats. Still, the slugging's 506. The OPS is 849. Those are okay numbers, right? But you feel like he probably would give.
Yeah, it feels like an average, maybe slightly below.
Right? Your triumvirate of Dominic Smith, Jeff McNeil, and Michael Conforto, all your base left-handed hitters, being like among the three guys who have the largest drop of OPS from 2019 to 2021. Like when you compare the full seasons, like they show the stat on the Met game practically every game.
Yeah.
It's astounding.
It's jaw dropper.
All three of those guys, and Conforto's picked it up a little bit lately. And then
in his walk year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone's going to get it done, you'd figure Conforto.
And then you throw into the mix, like you said, Lindor, who's a switch hitter, and he's performed far below the expectations that you've had. Now we have seen Mets and Yankees, notoriously be big acquisitions and have a real difficult time in their first year, only to straighten it out in future years. But we're still a ways away from that, and that doesn't mean they can't come through and make the playoffs. But it's contingent on DeGrom getting back in there, Carrasco, being able to contribute, and some of these other guys in the rotation just being able to lock down and pick things up. I mean, you've got some good pitching performances there. McGill's kind of come out of nowhere. He looks like he's pretty solid, and your bullpen. Listen, Diaz to me has been a bright spot, and I'll tell you who else. Familia, like he's had some big moments.
Yeah.
Out of a bases loaded, no out jam the other day. Now, again, give Rojas credit. He's kind of like you would never, if you looked at his numbers, bring him into that spot. But you know what he did? He's probably the only guy that I want to handle that spot, because if he screws it up, I know I can go to him tomorrow or the day after, whatever, and it's a clean slate. And then he goes and gets them out of the spot. They don't win the game, but to me, you build on those moments.
Yeah.
But Dog, I think that's Xavier's giving me the cue. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to be called the quick hits anymore. Follow us at Diamond Diehards on all social media, including Twitter, and join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Diamond Diehards. Or, wow, what accent with that? Don't
I mean, Diehards.
you're on the island,
Exactly.
Or you're in Jersey. Or there, if you go to facebook.com/Diamond Diehards, that's our Facebook page. So either way, just put in Diamond Diehards on Facebook, Diamond Diehards on Twitter. You'll find us there. TikTok, Instagram. I think the only thing we don't have anymore is Snapchat. LinkedIn, if you want to do business, like fmsgraphics.com, sportsmaps.com, and
the newest.
Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. That's Bergen County. It's right near, if you're anywhere near Patterson, if you see that on map, if you're driving through, go to Big Ed's.
110 feet. That's like home to almost a second base.
Dude,
think of that. Car driving your blow bullpuck car all the way out there, getting nice and clean.
So Big Ed gave us the tour the other day while we were getting the car washed over there. It took so long for the car to get through the tunnel that we got like a double tour, I think. It's phenomenal. And nice. I think that
do you get to watch it going through with the windows and stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that.
The whole thing.
Oh, I love that.
And then like everybody in that place is so nice. Like you go to the cashier, she's like super friendly, like tells you everything you need to know. They have all the little accessories. If you want to buy like air fresheners for the car. And then you know what else too? The staff, like after the car comes out and they dry off the rest of the stuff, they're like really attentive and nice. Like you don't feel like you're getting pushed around a little bit. So Big Ed's, that's more for this is a little local flavor. I know this is an international podcast, but this is a local flavor for the North Jersey peeps. If you're anywhere around Fair Lawn, Big Ed's Car Wash, check them out. And I think that Ed was telling me they might start playing these shows in the lobby.
There you go.
How cool would it be to be in Big Ed's and hearing this? Right?
That's
like
right.
Getting your car cleaned, you're like, wow, this place is like
this guy's a big hitter. These guys are on YouTube.
This guy's a home run hitter. Literally. Oh, Diamond Diehards. It's not just a podcast about baseball. It's not just a podcast of life. It's about clean cars. Okay, so I think that's going to do it. Follow the dog at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8 on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I use the Diamond Diehards handle on Twitter. So if you're tweeting to Diamond Diehards, then hit that follow button. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with a friend. So hopefully you enjoyed this interesting quick hits episode, where I may or may not be a time traveler. You could decide that one for yourself. So that's going to wrap it up for the August 25th show. For the dog, Jeff Healy, and producer Xavier Rizzo, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.